Ahoy, me hearties! Gather round and let this old salt spin ye a yarn, a tale of greed, treasure, and the fearsome wrath of the mermaids. It was a warm night in the Caribbean, the moon high and full in the inky black sky. Captain Jumbo and his crew of scurvy pirates were sailing the high seas, seeking adventure and riches beyond their wildest dreams. Now, this crew was a greedy bunch, always hungry for more gold and jewels to line their pockets. They had heard whispers of a sunken ship, laden with untold treasures, lying at the bottom of the sea. But this was no ordinary wreck, for it was said to be guarded by a colony of mermaids. These mermaids, they were beautiful creatures, with the tails of fish and the voices of angels. But they also possessed a powerful magic, and each of them carried a small enchanted seashell that gave them control over the winds and the waves. It was said that anyone foolish enough to take these shells would face the full fury of the mermaids, a punishment more terrible than any pirate could imagine. But Captain Jumbo and his men, they were blinded by their greed, and they were determined to have the treasure, no matter the cost. So one night, they dropped anchor near the spot where the sunken ship lay and lowered their boats into the water. Armed with swords and knives, they dove down to the wreck, ready to fight off any mermaids that dared to stand in their way. And sure enough, as they approached the ship, they were greeted by the sight of the mermaids, swimming around the wreck, their long hair floating around them like seaweed. These mermaids, they were fierce and determined to protect their treasure, and they used their enchanted shells to summon powerful waves and whirlpools to try and sweep the pirates away. But Captain Jumbo and his men, they were relentless, and they fought their way through the mermaids' defenses, cutting and slashing with their swords. One by one, they broke through and made their way into the sunken ship. Inside, they found a treasure trove beyond their wildest dreams, chests filled with gold and silver, jewels that sparkled like the stars in the night sky, and even a few of the mermaids' enchanted seashells, which they snatched up without a second thought. But as they made their way back to the surface, clutching their ill-gotten gains, they realized too late the mistake they had made. For by taking the mermaids' shells, they had unleashed a fury unlike any they had ever seen before. The sea began to churn and roil, as if the very depths of the ocean itself were angered by the pirates' actions. Massive waves rose up, towering over the pirates' ships like giants, ready to crash down and swallow them whole. And then, from the depths, came the mermaids themselves, their eyes burning with a rage that could scorch the very soul. They sang their haunting songs, and the sea responded, whipping itself into a frenzy that no mortal ship could hope to survive. The pirates fought back with all their might, firing their cannons and swinging their swords, but it was no use. The mermaids' power was too great, and one by one, the pirates' ships were torn apart by the fury of the waves. Those few pirates who managed to make it to shore were never the same again, haunted by the memory of the mermaids' wrath and the sound of their terrible songs. They had lost everything, their ships, their treasure, and even their lives, all because of their greed and foolishness. And as for the treasure and the enchanted shells, they were lost forever, swallowed up by the depths of the sea, never to be seen again. Now, me hearties, let this tale be a warning to ye all. The sea is a powerful and unforgiving mistress, and those who dare to plunder her treasuries do so at their own peril. Greed and foolishness will only lead to destruction, and the price of such actions is often higher than any man can pay. So heed me words, and sail true. For the lure of treasure may be strong, but the fury of the mermaids is stronger still. They will not take kindly to any who dare to steal from them, and their vengeance will be swift and terrible. I still remember the look in Captain Jumbo's eyes as he washed up on that beach, half drowned and babbling about the mermaid songs. He had seen things that night, horrors that would haunt him for the rest of his days. And poor Tiny Tim, the youngest of our crew, he never stood a chance against a mermaid's magic. One minute he was cheering and waving his sword in the air, and the next he was swept away by a massive wave never to be seen again. Aye, it was a dark night for us all, a night that taught us the true meaning of fear. For the mermaids, they are not to be trifled with, and their power over the sea is absolute. But perhaps the most tragic tale of all is that of Ola Salty Pete. He was the one who first discovered the enchanted shells, and he couldn't resist the temptation to take one for himself. Little did he know that by doing so he had sealed his own fate. The mermaids' wrath fell upon him first, and they dragged him down into the depths, his screams echoing through the water like a banshee's wail. To this day, I still hear his cries in me nightmares, a reminder of the price we paid for our greed. And yet, despite all the horrors we faced that night, there were a few glimmers of hope, moments that proved that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit can prevail. I'll never forget the way old One-Eyed Jack stood his ground against the mermaids, swinging his sword with a fierce determination that would have made even the bravest of warriors proud. He may have lost his eye in the battle, but he never lost his courage, and he was one of the few who made it back to shore alive. And then there was young Billy, just a lad at the time, but with a heart as big as the ocean itself. When D-waves started to rise, he didn't panic or run, but instead lashed himself to the mast, singing an old sea shanty at the top of his lungs to keep our spirits up. To this day, I still don't know how he survived, but that boy's voice was like a beacon in the darkness, guiding us through the storm and reminding us that no matter how fierce the mermaid's wrath may be, there was always hope. So you see me, hearties, this tale is not just one of greed and destruction, but also of courage and resilience in the face of overwhelming odds. For even in the darkest of times, there are always those who refuse to give in, who fight with every last breath to survive. And that, me friends, is the true lesson of this story. It's not just a warning about the dangers of greed, but a reminder that no matter how mighty the foe, there is always a way to overcome if ye have the courage and the determination to see it through. So take heed, me hearties, and remember the tale of Captain Jumbo and the mermaid's wrath. Let it serve as a guide, a beacon in the darkness, reminding you to stay true to yourselves and never lose sight of what truly matters. For the sea, she is a harsh mistress but also a beautiful and powerful one, and those who respect her will be rewarded with riches beyond their wildest dreams. But those who dare to cross her, those foolish enough to think they can plunder her treasures with impunity, will face a reckoning unlike any they have ever known. So sail true, me hearties, and keep your wits about ye. For the sea is vast and full of wonders, but also full of dangers, and only those with the bravest of hearts will survive the mermaid's fearsome wrath. That's it for this video, folks. Be sure to subscribe to our channel Pictales for more stories like this one. Leave a comment letting us know what stories you'd like to see come to life. Don't forget to like and subscribe for new African tales and fables every week.